Mind Gap Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin. And Doug, let me ask you a question. At what age do you think people are their happiest?
Oh boy, I thought you'd be like, at what age did you start jerking off? I'm like, I know the exact date.
I wasn't gonna go right into that up front. I was gonna ease our audience in, much like you do during your ritual of masturbation.
Yeah, because you gotta warm up, otherwise you get hurt.
You want to pull something.
Yeah, otherwise it just doesn't work. You know,
you do want to pull something. But
you do. You kind of have to. The age that people are happiest. Are we talking like just dumb happiness? Like you don't know any better, so you're happy?
No, just happiest in life. Overall happiest. I don't want to put a qualifier of like what kind of happy. Just happy.
I'm of two minds. One being like between the ages of 5 and 10. Because puberty hasn't kicked in yet. You don't understand. You get to have recess and naps. You get snacks, you know.
So that's a pure happiness.
That's just pure happiness. And then the other one is probably like, I don't know, maybe in your 50s.
Yeah.
When you're kind of like cruising towards retirement, you stop giving a fuck about things and you're like, none of this matters. You know, you start getting to the point where you're like, fuck you. You know, I don't care. The worries go off my shoulder.
I'd have to say I have a feeling that your 50s are probably one of the happier decades, just because of that reason. You've figured out who you are. You know, you're young enough to still do pretty much anything you want. You're old enough to know who you're not and what you don't want to try, and what there's this happy medium of able-bodied, but have figured yourself out, and I feel like that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think, because my initial, you think like, oh, college is probably a good time. I mean, it can be, in general, but then you hit, your early 20s, and you're out in the real world, and you realize you don't know jack shit, and you got to figure out. You better hope that you chose a general enough path to exist. But then for me, I was like, my 20s sucked. I was like, some people
in
like,
hindsight, saying they sucked?
Oh, they sucked. I kind of knew in my 20s they also weren't good. Once I was like, you're turning 30, how's it feel? I'm like, fucking, let's go, baby. Full speed ahead. Like, we got a new decade. Let's do it. I'm done with my 20s. This was not a good decade for me. I couldn't wait to turn 30.
It's funny because when I turned 20, everyone was like, "Oh, you're going into your 20s. This was my favorite decade." As I turned 30, I heard a lot of people say, "Oh man, 30s is really my favorite decade." Like that's your 20s. You were just figuring out who you were. 30s, you're moving into it. I turned 40, and I heard a lot of people tell me, "Oh man, 40s is the best." I'm like, I feel like people are just trying to placate you, no matter what decade you're going into. They're just placating you.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you look at it. Because for me, it's been like just continuous growth, for each decade. I've gotten a little bit, there's ups and downs in each decade. But 20s was by far, I think, the worst, just because 6 years of that was at the hotel. So,
That's totally fair. I had a lot of fun in my 20s, but I did not like who I was in my 20s.
Yeah, I didn't like what I was going through. I felt pretty powerless in my circumstances. 30s were great because I started doing improv and whatnot. So there's a good 4 years of that decade where I was doing comedy, which was so much fun. And, got
Kids,
my daughter.
Don't ever let someone tell you that bullying doesn't work.
Right.
I bullied Doug into doing improv, and it's the best decision he ever made.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. You got me out of my comfort zone. And I was like, okay.
Bully your friends. That's what
I still don't know how you convinced me to do that. I'm pretty obstinate when it comes to that stuff. And you like,
I don't know, man. How that works.
I'm looking back on that. I'm like, how did you pull that off? Like,
because you at that time, like that, your personality, I watched it change once you went into improv because you you learned how to you actually in real time learned how to yes and your whole outlook on life changed. Like you went from meh to meh, but yes and.
I realized I'd closed a door long ago, and then improv opened that door again, and there was a whole new, like, the lights and whatever chaos that came out of that room, came pouring out, and it was great. And I forgot that I was like, oh, this is kind of like a door to my childhood of just playing pretend and whatever. And it absolutely shifted everything in my life. It shifted how I approached everything. It brought energy to it. It helped me find my passion for, like, corporate work. Feels gross to say that, but it's true. How to like combine both of those. So yeah, it's looking back on it, because I know you were doing the writing program.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you said you're going to do improv, and you're like, you should do it. And for some reason, I didn't really resist. I was like, okay.
Well, yeah, you and Drew both said yes, which again was, I don't think there was much, cajoling. I don't think I had to really get in there and like work the angles, but it was a real easy lift. And which again, with both of you should not have happened.
No.
Like traditionally, both of you should have been a very, very, it should have been very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, but congratulations. You unlocked some Xbox achievement, Bullying for good,
Bullying for good. Always bully your friends.
Yeah,
kids.
Bully for good.
Yeah.
The new Justin Foundation, 501c3, Bully for good,
Be on the lookout. I got a book coming out, paperback book this holiday season, Bully for Good.
Yeah.
Chapter 1. I'm going to release each chapter as its own paperback book.
Oh, there you go.
It's a 40 chapter book.
Chapter 1, read this, you pussy,
Exactly. Look, you got to live what you write, right? I'm living in the book. I am actively using my what I'm preaching.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, pick it up and read it. You fucking jackass. You jackalope. Yeah, you like these words? You like reading these words with your eyeballs? Well, good. Listen up, because I got some shit to tell you. Bullying can be good. You're reading this, aren't you? You're fucking welcome. Buy my crypto.
Bully coin.
Bully coin. Bully coin. Justin, it's been a minute.
It has.
Since we've talked, because I was out for a week because I was traveling for work, and then your computer had a heart attack and a stroke at the same time.
It really did, yeah.
It's clinging to life right now, and so you're like, hey, I'm not going to be available for a podcast. I was like, no problem. I brought the magical Jill in, so if you haven't checked out that episode, go back and listen to it. It was a delight having her on. We talked about a lot of fun stuff, so you should definitely go check that out. But it's great to see you again, sir. I'm glad you're back.
Wonderful to see you. I'm very happy to be back. As we saw at the beginning of this, before we started recording, my computer is it's
yeah.
It's on its last legs, and so it's struggling.
Justin had to stab it with adrenaline, to get it to move for this recording. So it's hanging on.
It needs to perform tonight, and then after that, I think it's just done.
Yeah, you gotta take it out back.
I'm gonna send it up to the Apple gods. Send it up to the old Steve Jobs in the sky.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, not thrilled about dropping coin on a new Mac, but it is what it is. You know what? Hopefully this will get me through at least another 2 years.
That's the thing I get excited for.
Again.
If I have to drop money on something, I want to drop it on some hardware like a computer. I'm like, listen, this sucks, but also I'm getting a fucking new computer. This is exciting.
It's gonna be all right. Yeah,
I get pretty pumped up about that.
The leaps and bounds that they have made, and every year they make it seemingly they sprint ahead, but 7 years I've had this computer, so I'm guessing that there's going to be some good upgrades in the new thing I'm getting. Yeah. So pretty excited. Now I wanted to ask you, how did the work retreat go? How did going out and traveling for work? Because that's not something that you typically do.
Mm-mm. I was looking forward to it just because, traveling, I had to go out to the West Coast.
Right.
And, I typically travel for enjoyment. Like 99% of my travel is traveling for fun and recreation and vacation. So the idea that I had to travel for work, I was like, this kind of sucks. At the end of this isn't some sort of, fun little ride. It's go to work. But it was exciting because I work remotely and I actually haven't met my teammates yet. So I actually got to meet my teammates in person, and I got to spend some time with the larger team, and I had a really good time. It was really nice actually being in an office. And we didn't do any work. We did some team building. We did some, brainstorming on some stuff. We had some food outings. There was a baseball game, all sorts of stuff, and it was really cool. It was a concerted effort by my employer to bring people together, to help people connect, and everyone was incredibly, sincerely, authentically kind. So people that I hadn't met
refreshing.
Or didn't know that well were incredibly welcoming. Like I would just go, like on our breaks, I just go intentionally sit at an empty table, and people would come and just sit down. People I didn't know or hadn't met before would come sit down, and we'd just shoot the shit. And it was really, really cool. Awesome. I got to know a lot of people, and some people I got to know, spend some time with, and really talk to, and it was really fun. It was really, really good.
It's a weird in the current work climate. It's very odd that you can, because you've been at your current job for how long?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And this is the first time in 2.5 years you've actually met any of your team face to face.
Yep.
That's so bizarre to me. Like I know we're in a real weird time where it's amazing that we get to work remotely and that a lot of businesses and companies have figured out how to do that. But at the same time, what a weird fucking thing to have worked at a company for 2.5 years and never to have met another soul in person.
It's interesting because you never realize how short or tall people are. Like you kind of get an idea in your head of how tall someone is, and you meet them, and they're either like, you're like, oh god damn, you're way taller than I thought, or like you're super fucking short. Like,
right.
I try to let people know I'm 6'3", so just so you know, when you meet me, I'm gonna be tall, right. And
I'm gonna be picking you up.
I'll just be like, yeah, it'll be pretty. You'll find me pretty easily. I'll be easily spotted. So it was really cool getting to spend some time, and it was good. It was time well spent, and I found out that everyone on my team are introverts, because in the team meeting before we went, we do like an icebreaker in our meetings. It's like, what's your since we're all headed to this this retreat. What's your favorite thing to do, like when you travel for work? And everyone gave introverted answers. Like, I love to check into my hotel and have a room with 2 beds and order room service because one bed's the bed that I eat on and the other bed's the bed that I sleep on.
That's awesome.
And someone's like, what else did someone say? Like, I don't know. It was just all like, yeah, I can't wait to read in my bed. Or I'm like, I like to go walk by myself around the neighborhood. It's like everyone had like these introverted.
I like to go find a retirement home, the local retirement community, and I like to prey on innocent victims.
Exactly. Like I like to play alone, please. Is basically what everyone said. And my boss was like, well, this is interesting. We're all severe introverts, so I'm going to challenge all of us to be open and outgoing for this retreat. So
what was your answer to that? Like,
walking.
Did you have an introverted answer as well?
Walking. I was like, I like to walk, like go out and just explore, like, mostly for exercise, but I like to spend that time exercising on my own, just going out and about, I
was like, I like to close my rings.
Yeah, I do. And I fucking did. Yep. I fucking did, man. I got up early, I stretched, and I walked / ran for almost 2 hours every morning. Yeah. Because I was like, I got to get all this shit in because who knows what the day is going to hold as far as movement. And most days I was fucking exhausted afterwards. So I'm like, I'm glad I got all this done because I don't have the energy to do anything else. So, yeah. I told
Haig and I were having a competition last week, and I told him that you had we always go back and forth because he's old and fat. And so the Apple Watch gives him a lot of leeway. So he always hits his goals quicker. And I said, you cheat. And he goes, no. He goes, you're just younger and fitter than I am. And I'm like, you cheat. And so we were talking about just closing, like what you have to do to get up and close the rings. And I said, well, Haig said something about, well, we can't do it next week because I'm traveling or I've got something. And I go, Doug managed to do it. He goes, that fucking guy's a fucking addict. He goes, thank God he doesn't do drugs.
You know what? I accept that as a compliment. I accept that as a compliment.
There's got to be some sort of program you can go to.
Yeah, it's called I Don't Want Diabetes. Not anonymous. Like.
Right.
the sickness that runs in my veins is kept at bay by me moving. So that's what I do. So, but I'm coming up on almost 2 years straight, man.
Dude,
2
that's
years,
absolutely bonkers to me.
2 years straight of hitting my move goals. I forget where I'm at, but I'm closing the gap. Because I'm coming up on 730 days straight of hitting every single move goal. So
that's insane. Congratulations.
That math says
honestly
2 years. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Jill was talking about in the last week's episode how much stress that would give her to have a streak like that.
Yes, because I would be so afraid of breaking it.
See, the thing is, I'm at peace with the fact that I'm going to break it someday. It's going to happen, and that's fine. But until then, this is my routine. I'm going to do this as whatever I can to keep this going, and when it breaks, it breaks. But for now, I'm happy to keep it going. It's not gonna break my soul if it ends.
You really you have made your peace, truly made your peace with it, because it's easy to say, but the minute that you see, you're like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock and I have 300 calories left to go. The minute that happens, are you really think you're gonna be okay? And not
I know it'll be because it'll be for good reason. I'm fucking sick, or I got hurt. Or there's not.
Sorry, that's the other thing. He goes, what the fuck does he? Because I told him, I said, Doug's come up in 2 years, and he goes, does the guy never get sick? And I go, hey, you don't get sick when you close your rings.
I mean, honestly, I haven't had a severe sickness in a long time.
That's impressive.
Even the days that I've been under the weather, I still go out and walk. I do something. I move. Because it's part of my routine now. I will feel awful if I don't move, because that's slipping back into old Doug. When I think about old Doug days, where, dear God, I would love to have seen the movement calories I burned in basically those 15 years that I didn't do shit. I didn't do jack shit.
Your watch would have kept alerting you, just saying, "Are you okay?"
It would have been like, "Hey, can we stand up once today?" That would be great.
Just for us. Just do it for us.
Can you please go on a 15-minute walk? Please, right. Just once this month. That's your goal. Go on one 15-minute walk.
If you don't stand up, I'm going to automatically call the emergency services.
Yeah. It's please go do something. Please move. So it's just part of my routine now, and it's something that I really enjoy doing, and it keeps that darkness at bay, because I got to fight off the food demons that are always just chomping away at me, being like, you should eat. You should eat. I'm like, stop it. And I have to mentally be like, you're fine. Like I've said numerous times, after dinner is the worst. Dinner's the worst time for me, just because it builds up throughout the day. I eat throughout the day. I don't starve myself. I have a solid breakfast. I have a post-workout snack. I have lunch. But come dinner time, my body's just like, let's go. And I have to really keep an eye on my portions. And when I'm done, I have to tell myself, you're okay. You ate enough. You're going to be okay. But my body's like, yeah, but what if we had some M&Ms? It's like, no. Right. It's like, come on, man. Why don't you try out some of those jelly beans that are up there in the cabinet? Uh-oh, I saw some double stuffed Oreos under the cabinet. Why don't you just have one? And I'm like, no, you're fine. You don't need to. And if I wait 30 minutes, do something else, I forget, and before I know it, I'm good. I'm good to go.
The TV is the killer for me. Always has been. If I sit down, I just mindlessly, I'm like, I'll be done eating. I'll get done with a meal. I'll sit down and watch some TV, and I'm like, I need popcorn or something. I need something to just mindlessly munch on. And I've been trying to be more cognizant of that. It's just acknowledging the fact that I'm like, no, you're not. This is just a routine, and you've got to break this. It's a pattern that's been established in your brain, and you need to break it. And
I give myself Friday and Saturday to enjoy some treats, and then other than that, I'm like, let's get on the program. Let's stick with the program, and let's because I'm not a psychopath. I want to enjoy life. Natalie went to the orthodontist today, and there's this amazing cinnamon roll place next to it called Cinnaholic, and they have you basically can make your own cinnamon roll, but they also have specialties like s'mores and apple pie and Cookie Monster with cookie dough, and it's insane stuff. And she and Jill went to that after her appointment, and she's like, do you want one? I go, I'm going to pass. I want one, but I'm going to be a good boy today. I don't need because I'm looking at these. I'm looking at the calories. I'm like, this Cookie Monster one is almost 1,200 calories. I'm good.
Jesus.
Like, I don't need that. And as much as I'd like to, and Jill and Natalie each got one, and Jill's like, just try a bite. So I tried a bite of each one of them. I'm like, those are good. And then I moved on with my day. And I was like, look at you. You know, look how far you've come. Being able to just be like, they're good. And then, peace out. But but the demon does start clawing at the back of my head come Friday. It's like, let's feast, Right. I'm like, all right, let's have something tonight. But I don't go crazy. I have myself like, get one of Natalie's little plastic bowls. I fill it up about a third of the way of M&Ms. Like, that's my treat, Yeah. The old days would have been like, let's get this Costco-sized bucket of M&Ms and we'll just have it up here with me. To consume until I, like you doing stuff, and before I know it, like I'm just shitting blood because my body doesn't know what to do with all this sugar and chocolate. You
almost got me on that one.
It was darn close.
You were. It was very.
As
close.
soon as you were drinking, I'm like, I might land one here. I might land a spit take. I might have it. We just might have it. That was one of the things I learned is like, don't take the container with you. Okay, and that's one of the things I've stuck with where I want to, because that's what I used to do, is just like, we'll take this whole thing with us. It's like, no, pick out what you want and then walk away.
Right. Don't take the bag of pretzels with you. Don't take the whatever. Yeah.
And that's what I'm teaching Natalie too, because a lot of times she would bring the bag. I'm like, no, pour some out into your bowl and then put the rest back. Don't fall into that trick. That's a trick. That's a trap, and it's gonna be tough to get out of. So don't do that. Please don't do that.
It really is. Like, it's when those patterns get solidified and established, it's very fucking hard to break those. It's doable, but it's so hard.
Yeah. Speaking of patterns and habits, I want to address something real quick. So we posted a clip a couple weeks ago about I mentioned about how it was hard for me to poop on a plane. Because the toilet was so small that I couldn't tuck my wee-wee down while I was pooping. And, because as I mentioned, not every pee-pee is a poo-poo, but every poo-poo is a pee-pee. And I got some people sending me messages saying, hey, it's not that hard. Just pee before you poop. I got something for you, pal. Because I don't think you're being honest with yourself about how your body works. Because let's just say this isn't an emergency moment. We'll set that off to the side for a moment and we'll come back to it. All right? Let's just say this is your run-of-the-mill dookie that you got to push out of your rectum. All right? And you sit down and let's just say you have the ability to go pee before you have to poop, because sometimes I can pee a little bit, but then the poop comes. Right. So it starts coming out as you push the pee out, right? Because you can let it dribble out, but then you have to push, and then guess what? The poop starts coming. So then you have to poop, and then guess what happens? After you poop, pee comes out. Right? Like, that's how this works. I'm not the one person this happens to, right? Justin, can you vouch for me here? That happens?
It absolutely happens. I think there are times where I think what is being suggested to you is potentially a possibility, but if it's dire straits, as we've talked about, it is not always an option.
Or sometimes even when it's not dire straits, you're trying to pee and your poop is like, no. For whatever reason, when I have to poop, my pee stops because my body's like, this takes priority. Like, I think, I can't isolate them,
Different situations for different folks. I will say that I believe that I would be able to, I feel like I have in the past, isolate the two. But again, we're talking if it's just like a passive, like, I could poop now. It's not like it's here. And it is knocking on the door. If that's the case, there's no splitting the two.
Right. And also, let's add the pressure of you don't have the option of tucking your dick into the toilet, right? So you better hope you got it right, because otherwise there's some pee coming out,
Right.
So to the folks who are like,
make sure you've emptied, you've drained.
To some people who are like, wow, we're really failing critical thinking. Hey, I'm not fucking stupid, all right? my body works the way that it works. I understand. I'm not like, oh man, what do I do? I have to go pee and poop. Oh, I guess I'll go poop. And then maybe I'll pee on myself. I understand. I understand how all this works, all right? I'm not stupid, okay? It's just when you poop, you also pee. That's a fucking fact, all right? That's a fucking fact. And to the...
Stupid stuff is
Sorry.
dumb.
I jumped it.
No,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's okay.
Keep going.
It's okay. That was
Keep
good.
going.
And to the woman who said that adults can have fun on Halloween too. Halloween's meant for adults too. If you want to just give out candy on Halloween to kids, do a trunk or treat with a facepalm emoji. Are you admitting that you've gone trick or treating as an adult by yourself? Because if so, I have questions for you. At me for sure. Because I asked you and you didn't respond. Because what I was talking about is people who go trick or treating as adults by themselves. That's weird. And there's no debate there. That is strange. So if you're like, no, it could be fun for adults. Are you going around as an actual adult dressed up in a costume, ringing doorbells and saying trick or treat and taking their candy? Because get a fucking job and buy your own. Okay? All right? Or go to a bar like a somewhat irresponsible adult and get drunk and hammered in your costume. Enjoy Halloween that way. All right?
Can I do it now?
Yeah.
Stuff is stupid, stuff is dumb. Doug hates stuff.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Look, in your neighborhood, there's got to be a group of parents that go around. Just make friends with them, jump on the bandwagon, and do your fucking trunk or treat, drunk or treat, whatever the fuck you want to do, you know.
And that's
pull a little
fine.
cart around with you and have some candy and some booze and make a fucking night of it.
See, that's the thing is people are like, I go around my kids. That's fine if you're going around with your kids, your nieces,
100%.
your nephews, and you're dressed up with your kids as part of that's totally cool. What we're talking about is as an adult, you are too old. It's awkward when there's an awkward exchange where someone opens the door and they see you, they're like, what? And you're like, how many can I take? You know, like, it's like, what the fuck? Go buy your own, man.
You got any of the big ones in there?
It's like, when someone can look at you and be like, I'm assuming you can go to Costco and buy this on your own, sir.
Nah, I don't got a membership. They won't let me back in there. I tried too many times with a card.
I tried too many times. They kicked me out. I won't do it anymore.
Out, yeah.
I can't do it.
I kept making a mess with the hot dogs and the mustard. They
Yeah.
won't let me in.
They're like, oh, Mustard Dan, he can't come back in here. They got my poster up on at least four Costco's in the surrounding zip codes.
In the tri-state area.
Tri-state area. They're like, Mustard Dan, I'm like an outlaw. There's a reward if you catch me.
I'm pretty sure they've notified corporate because I was on vacation. I tried walking in and they say, Mustard Dan.
But you know what, though? I've been watching a lot of Mission Impossible lately, and I'm going to try and do a mask thing and see if maybe I can charm my way in. Because
He
if
walks
I
in
do,
with a Nixon mask.
he just from Point Break.
Right?
They try a nun mask from the town. He's like, they'll never see me. They're like, here's Mustard Dan. The Ballad of Mustard Dan.
The Ballad of Mustard Dan. I'm into that. That needs to be on a poster. Yeah. Woo. I'll tell you what.
Speaking of corporate stuff, super duper corporate stuff, Justin, what hellscape has Disney Plus wrought as of late?
Well, man, this was interesting. So when I first got wind of this, I messaged you and Slotty on Instagram, and I said, I'm hesitant about this, but I'm also very interested. It's the Disney Plus Toy Story Funday Football. Basically, they've got I'm assuming it's with ESPN. They simulcast the game that's on Sunday, and I think it's Sunday. Anyway, They simulcast the game, but they are using some sort of AR program to set it in Andy's room from Toy Story. And so all these, basically they have faceless football players on each side with the numbers, no names. And they're actually in real time having these animated players run the plays. And Slinky Dog is the 10-yard marker. And they've got commentators specifically commentating on this, and they cut away to the different characters, and I think they had a halftime show with someone from Toy Story 4, and it was a whole...
Duke Kaboom. Give him your respect.
I shan't.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I yell whenever I poop in the airplane. I yell, Duke Kaboom! Oh no, I peed on myself.
Oh, durable. No, but I think I watched. I didn't watch it live. I went back. You can see it in replay, and you can kind of scrub through. And I'll say this: what they're doing is fascinating because they're tapping into an almost ungettable market. Like if you look at the Nielsen ratings for like kids 6 to 12 or 3 to 12 on Sundays during football, I'm sure the numbers are negligible. That you're not getting a good market share from that demographic. And if Disney is able to do this and pull in that demographic and breed a whole new generation of football fans, that's an advertiser's wet dream. Like they are figuring out, using technology, figuring out a way to bridge a gap between a program and a demo that has no crossover. And it's from a corporate side, it's fascinating. They've got a lot of work to do because it was very glitchy.
It made me just a little glow of darkness in me when I heard you say from a corporate perspective, because I know a part of you died when you said that as well.
Yeah.
From a corporate perspective, it's pretty exciting. I mean, we got some pretty exciting times ahead of us, Because we talk about the demographic of kids 6 to 10 based on Nielsen ratings. I'm telling you, I mean, it's a gold mine. We're going to mine it.
We're rolling this out in Q3 of 2023, and by Q1 of 24, we expect to have 75% coverage and 100% buy-in.
That's right. The ad sales, they're going to make your dick move,
Yeah. Don't like it.
I watched probably a total of 2 minutes of it, and I had to shut it off because it was definitely one of those things where I'm like, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it. Because I was watching it, I was like, this is cringeworthy on so many levels. Because I was like, if as an adult watching this, I'm like, I know what you all are doing. I see it. Yeah. It was like a friend years ago, a guy I worked with. I was like, he was a nerd. I'm like, do you like Big Bang Theory? He goes, no. I'm like, why? I feel like it would really appeal to you. He goes, I know what they're doing. I see what they're doing, and I don't like it. I don't like the thinly veiled thing of like, hey, we're nerds just like you. The same thing with this. It's like in between plays, they're interviewing these fucking NFL players who are like, my favorite character for playing defense is gotta be... It's got to be the little aliens with the multiple eyes because as a quarterback, you got to be able to see the whole field. They're like, who do you like more, Buzz Lightyear or Woody? And they're like, Buzz Lightyear, I think, is cool because he can fly. Like these adult men who are basically trying to crush each other's skulls are like, I prefer Woody because he's a leader. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like this is, it's like, oh, let's check and see if we got the first down marker. Out comes Slinky Dog. And it starts with his face is where they're trying to get. I'm like, man, I don't know. Like this seems really.
They started at his ruby starfruit, and they got to go all the way to the top of his snoot.
Yeah, it's it was extremely difficult to watch. I understand.
I respect that.
Yeah, and I respect the idea of like it was an interesting experiment in my mind to be like, what can we do with AR and whatnot, and what can we do? Because it seems, for the most part, again, I only watched about 2 minutes of it. I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here, like as it's happening and whatnot, and there's some fun, graphics and unique stuff. But I'm like, I can't imagine anyone being like, oh boy, let's turn on the Sunday Funday, for Toy Story. It's just dripping with corporate. Grossness.
It 100% is. I don't think it's good television. Like, I'm going to be very clear. I don't think this is like, I respect what they're trying to do. Again, they're trying to make their bottom, they're trying to, make their bottom line and stay in the green and blah, blah, blah. But, I just don't see many kids where it is right now being like, can we turn on, Funday Football, Dad? Can we turn it on? But I don't want to watch that boring real life game. I want to watch this one. And
it's
then
still
like
boring.
all the parents are like, yeah, we should totally do that. I don't want to watch real life either. Like I just don't see it. connecting.
It's still boring. It's like there's a play. Yeah. It's like, oh well, no game.
That was the thing. Is
let's go ahead and huddle back up, and then God bless these announcers that are like, so Toy Story. They're just trying to fill the game because they're like, kids may be watching this, so it's just. Hey, do a little whirly-do with the graphics, like get do something fun on the sideline, it's like, ugh.
I just don't see, there wasn't enough actual, play action. I know there was in the game, but when you, for some reason, when you put this AR shell over the whole field and the players, it just took a level of excitement out of it. And I'm it
sucked the humanity out of it.
Boring.
It sucked the life out of it because you just feel like you're watching a boring video game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and the technology is cool. The fact that it's skinned on top of actual people and they're moving accordingly, I think that's very impressive. But at the same time,
it's only going to get better. Again, AI is always the worst it will ever be.
Yeah. At the same time, when you watch it and you're like, yeah, this is not that enjoyable. Just turn on the regular game.
Right.
As we're trying to do this, I don't know. It was really weird. And
yeah, it was weird. Yeah. I like that at least. Companies are taking. I don't like the end, the rationale. Again, gross corporate greed is driving it. But I do like companies taking technology and saying, well, what can we try now? Let's try this new thing, and how far can we push it before it starts to break? And then what do we need to do to fix that? And I feel like that is the way we get innovation. So I say kudos for them for. It was a big swing that they're doing with this, and I don't know if it'll stick. And if it does, it is only because of ad dollars that they're going to make it stick. So kudos for them for trying. Gross for why they're doing it. We'll say.
Yeah, I'm constantly fascinated by the application of AR because I think AR is essentially like a heads-up display. Like in the video games and stuff that you play and whatever. And I think that what's possible with that, I think, is absolutely fascinating. When Natalie was younger, I had an app on her iPad that you would basically point it at like a space on the floor, and a story would be told, and it would be on her floor as you look through the iPad. Cool. There was Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and you would watch it play out as if it was on her floor, on her bed, or something like that. And it was a really cool way of just doing storytelling. And I'm like, that's really interesting how people can apply that kind of technology to do stuff. So I'm constantly curious. I'm in the same boat of I would love to see a better way of using it, but I applaud the attempt.
I can't remember if it's Apple or Disney. I don't remember if Disney developed an app that syncs with Disney Plus, or if Apple was doing something through Apple TV. I want to say it was Disney, but they had something very similar to what you're describing, where you could hold your iPad up as you're watching a movie, and let's say you're watching Rapunzel. When she throws her hair down, it'll fall out of the TV and roll on into your living room, and big waterfall scenes from the Jungle Book or whatever would be, you would see it expand out of the TV, and the water would be tumbling into your room, and birds would be flying away, and
right.
It kind of it bridged that gap between the television and your space.
You watch Song of the South, and the racism just pours out into your
you don't need AR for that, Doug.
Nah, you know what? That one doesn't need AR.
They were ahead of their times, those filmmakers.
It comes working right out of the box.
Yep. They really made that racism pop off the screen.
Hi-ya.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see some different attempts to use this. I don't know. If this leads to something else, cool. But yeah, as an adult watching this, it felt really gross and very obvious what they were trying to do.
I won't be watching it again. I'll say that.
And I didn't appreciate it, honestly. I thought it was pretty gross and cringy. And I was like, I see your agenda, and I reject it.
My current favorite application of AR is so adult and boring. It is being able to look at preview furniture in your space before you buy it. I'm like, that's it. To me, that's the top of the mountain right there.
I like being able to use it to do measurements. How much is this?
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, sweet. This is actually how big it is. That's kind of cool.
The funny thing is, I use that all the time, but I never trust it. I do it, and then I go, And then I go find myself a tape measure. I'm like, it was right. Okay.
We got to double check. Yeah, you got to double check it. You know?
I don't know how many times I have to do it until I finally buy into the fact that it knows what it's doing.
Well, you don't want to like assume it's right and then get, especially if you're buying like a big piece of furniture or something like that, and then being like, for me, I was using it to measure my my air filters, my HVAC system. I was like, I gotta get the right one, otherwise it's just not gonna fit in there, and that's gonna be a problem. So I don't need to measure my dick. We all know how big our dick is, Justin. We don't need an AR system to tell us how big our dicks are.
You also probably shouldn't be pointing your iPhone camera at it at all because it's just capturing that data. Yeah,
absolutely. It's just going womp 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 wow. Yeah, exactly.
Siri comes on and just goes, "Ouch."
Just goes,
"Nice cock."
If you're lucky.
That sounds like something out of Super Smash Brothers.
It's actually from the Wii Bowling.
There it is. Okay. Well, hey, look, Nintendo. It's in the same vein.
Hey, it's a Nintendo. Yeah.
Hey, it's a nice cock.
It's a Nintendo.
Speaking of football, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
You watched.
It's my turn. Okay.
I'm sorry. Hold on. We got the. There it is.
Oh no! Wait. Hold on. We gotta do the. Wait. It's the. Speaking of football, so I watched the Florida Gators documentary. I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's called Florida Gators or
it's called Swamp Kings.
Oh, that's right. That's what I call my balls when it's hot outside.
Because I kept looking up on Netflix. I'm like, Florida Gators. And it kept bringing up Swamp Kings. I'm like, that's not what Doug said it was called. It's Florida Gators. And it can't bring up Swamp Kings. I'm like, I wonder if this is it.
This might be it. I was like, I don't know. There's like a Florida Gators thing on it. I don't know what it's called. I don't know. I'm so bad at that. I'm like, what's it called? I don't know. It's about the Florida Gators. Swamp Kings. Yeah, it was basically about, I play this character in my D&D campaign that basically is like Mario. And I'm always like, hey, it's me, Vasily. Hey, it's just so nice to see you. And he just comes out from time to time. So I was watching this, and I typically am like, I don't know, I'm kind of like curious about certain sports documentaries, just because I'm always curious about, especially in the elite levels, it's like, God, what do these people do? How do they get to where they are? And it's always fascinating to hear that. Plus, especially if it's just like a story of a unique thing, there's always so much excitement around sports, and it's always kind of cool to get an insight into that. And I actually remember I follow like sports at different brief periods of time. And at this point in time, in like the mid 2000s, I was watching, or the mid-aughts, I should say. I was actually paying attention to college football. I don't know why, but I was. And I remembered about the Florida Gators being good at that time. And I'd heard on a podcast people talking about this, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'll check this out. And it was like on my flight for work. I'm like, fuck it. I'll watch it. It's 4 episodes, whatever. No big deal. I started watching it, and when it was done with those 4 episodes, I was like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about this, but it's mostly sad. I feel mostly really sad about this, and I feel sad for everyone that was involved, even though a lot of them are like, like guys like Tim Tebow and the head coach, I'm already forgetting his name, Urban Meyer,
Chase Utley,
and some other people who were just, I don't know, just talking about the good times. I'm like, were there good times? Were there? Was it good? Was it good for you?
Yeah.
And it kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Did you watch it at all?
I did not. I did not.
That's
get around
fine.
to. I realized that each episode was 45 minutes, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able
it's
to.
Like, you don't have time.
I watched the trailer.
Hey, there you go.
So I got a good idea of where it goes.
You got a sense of it.
So I didn't. I'll say this from the trailer. I didn't realize that things got so fucking nutty with them. Like that in like the training and the partying and the I didn't realize it got that intense.
Yeah, it's if you're not familiar, like it tells the story of the Florida Gators from basically like 2005 through 2009, and getting an insight into what the program was like, and then how Urban Meyer came and essentially put the program on the map because they had won one national title in their hundreds of years of existence, and Florida is a lot like Texas in that football is life in a lot of ways. And so people were just demanding a lot out of the team. And, I'm not going to spoil this for anyone who wants to watch it, but it's, what they really talked about was their work routines, which I guess was impressive to some degree, because I don't think, especially when it comes to like I said, like sports at high levels, I don't think people realize how much work goes into being that good. There's a level of mental toughness, and there's a level of physical just ability that most of us will never ever have. Mm-hmm. And to watch, see what these guys did to train and what they, and the whole point of Urban Meyer was to essentially test their mental toughness. He's basically was like, I'm going to put you guys through hell, and you can feel free to quit if you want. And if you do, that's fine, because I want the people that are going to stay, because that means they're willing to tough this out and whatever. Because the SEC conference is incredibly competitive, and in football at the time, it was just like they had the BCS rankings, which basically means the number 1 and the number 2 ranked teams played each other for the national championship, which meant you could not have more than one loss in the regular season to make it to the national championship. You essentially had to almost go undefeated every year, or at least have one loss. If you get 2 losses, you're fucking done. There's no way you're going to get in. And so the pressure, every single game mattered. And so like what you had to do and everything, and that's really what this was a story of. This is a story of pressure. Like, can you handle the pressure? And it sounded like an absolute fucking nightmare to me. As a college athlete, when you have to, when you are expected to win out the entire fucking season, that's insanity. Yeah. It bothered me because I didn't remember whether or not I liked Tim Tebow, but when I watched this, I was like, oh, right. I don't think I liked you. He seems like a nice guy, but he's definitely got big time Jesus, vibes. To say vibes is being an understatement. I mean, the guy was homeschooled. His parents were missionaries. The first shot you're introduced to him, he's like reading a Bible. The B-roll shot, he's holding his Bible. And I'm like, oh, I immediately go, oh, that's right. I forgot about this. I said that out loud in the airport. I was like, oh, that's right. This guy, it's just so gross. Cause he has it's thing he says, like when he started like playing Pee Wee football, his coach was like, hey guys, this isn't about winning. This is about going out there and just, doing your best. And allegedly, according to Tim, he said, no, coach, that's not right. This is about winning. And I'm like, how old were you? Because no, at some point it's about learning how to play the fucking game. Right. Because you can, I firmly believe when it comes to sports and you're teaching kids, winning is not the most important thing early on. You need to teach them the fundamentals, the basics. You need to have them understand. Now, there should absolutely be competitions. I don't necessarily believe like there's no winner, but winning should not be the priority when you are like less than, 12, 13 years old. Like once you start getting into like junior high or whatever, like, yeah, winning should matter to some degree, but at the same time, there also has to be understanding of what age level are we at? What skill level are we at? Right. We are teaching you how to do things. And at some point, that is going to ramp up if you want it to. If you want it to ramp up and you go to the next level, then it becomes more competitive. It was the same way when I started learning how to wrestle. I started in 7th grade. I didn't know how to fucking do it. So I think I was 4-7 my 7th grade season. And I was like, 9-2 or 9-1 my 8th grade year. Like I got tremendously better. And then freshman year, I got my shit pounded in. But each year I got pounded on less and less. I got better every year, and I did better. I got further every year. Like my freshman year, didn't get anywhere. I wasn't really on varsity. My sophomore year, I made it from districts to sectionals. Junior year, I made it to the state tournament. And my senior year, I placed. Like every year, I got better. And the competition increased as I got older and as I progressed through those things. I learned how to throw shot put when I was in fucking 5th grade. Do you think I was going out there being like, I'm going to be the best? I was like, no, I was learning how to throw this goddamn steel ball into a pit of rocks. You know, I didn't understand how any of that stuff worked.
Yeah.
And so the idea was like, learn the technique, learn how this works so that you can apply it and get better, which I did. I went on to do that in college and compete and understand when that competition needs to kick in. Not when you're a fucking child. That's absurd. To have someone be that obsessed. And maybe it's because I'm not an athlete at that level. Maybe it's because I don't operate. I'm not a Michael Jordan who just like, you know, or Kobe Bryant who's like competition, like winning meant everything to them. They were ultra competitive. Sure. But I also would be incredibly disturbed by a child who was that way. Because I'd be like,
absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Look, most children, if they're that way, it's coming from the parent. Mm-hmm. You know, most children don't have that strong of convictions about anything. If they do, odds are you can trace it. They always say follow the money, follow the convictions. Usually you can follow that back to a parent who's beating it into them. Because I just don't think kids, I don't know, maybe there's a few like the Jordans and the Kobes and the LeBrons, and that's, you know, maybe there are a few that from a very young age they're just wired a certain way where they're like, I win or I don't play, you know. But I feel like most kids, if they're preaching that, it's coming from somewhere else.
I also think it comes with a drive to become better because I watched the Steph Curry documentary, and he used to shoot because he was so much smaller. He used to shoot from his chest. Okay. And it wasn't, you know, he was getting frustrated with that. And his dad was like, all right, well, if you want to get better, then you have to change your shot. And he spent an entire summer every single day working on his shot. And his dad goes, I'm not lying to you when I say he probably missed every shot for 3 months as he was trying to learn how to change his form. But he was driven and he was dedicated to keep going. I think that's the difference, because the people that are ultra competitive are going to work their asses off to make sure they're in a position to win. And I think that, in my opinion, just no studies or anything, I think anyone who's at that elite level puts in the fucking work. Like there's people that are naturally good that then work on top of that to just exponentially increase their abilities as they go along. Because that's what those people do. They got to have those both connections to be, you know, both talented and work ethic. Otherwise you're Rudy, you know?
Oh, dude, that's exactly where I was going. That's exactly where I was going. Man, fucking right here.
Because Rudy had the desire, but he did not have the talent. And you can only get so far if you don't have the talent. So when I going back to this, like I see these guys are super talented, you know, they're working really hard. But what I really got, to put it in the most basic terms, what I got sad about was the culture, because many players are saying the culture was you are either praised or you are humiliated.
Sure, yeah.
Those are the only two things. Based on how you perform, you are praised or you are humiliated. Right. And there was even a point like where when they ate, like the top players sat in a different part of their cafeteria than everyone else, and they were fed steaks and really good food, and everyone else had to sit somewhere else, like down, like they were seated up higher than everyone else, and everyone else was lower, and they got like hot dogs and hamburgers, which I'm like, that sounds fine to me. I mean, I'd totally eat that. But essentially, what the coach was saying, which your mind was saying, is like, prove to me that you're worth being up here with the good players, and I'm willing to spend on you. I'm willing to spend time and everything. I'm going to give you my attention if you're worth it. Yeah. And I'm like, whew, like that toxicity. And one of the players was even, he's quoted in the film as he's being like, I'm not proud of the man I was, of the things that I did, of the way I talked. He goes, I've never told my son about the way that I was because I'm not proud of who I was. And I do not like that culture of praise or humiliation. Right. Someone may argue that's what it takes to be at that level. You either get it or you don't.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I don't thrive in that environment. That kills my spirit in those environments. And I witnessed definitely a a window of that in my high school football experience where the insane amount of pressure and lack of support had me playing out of fear and not playing out of like passion and excitement and joy. And that was starkly different from my college experience and track, where my coach was like, be reckless, be aggressive, have fun. That was our mantra. He's like, I don't give a shit if you foul out throwing shot put. If you're giving it your all and you're going for it, you're not holding back. He's like, I'll support you. I don't care. As long as I know you're giving it your all. It was a stark difference. And I felt so passionate and excited and like I felt part of something because of that level of sport. Now I know everyone operates differently, but if it was like you either succeed and are praised or you fail and you're humiliated publicly, I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm out.
It's a slippery slope to me, because that mentality could easily lead to what we saw at Northwestern happening there, right? Because it was, if you made a mistake or if you got marked, then you had that. I can't remember what the term was, but it was basically where the 8 guys held you down and one dude humped you, right? Like that, like you got marked, and I think it was based off performance. If you fucked up while you were in practice, you missed a play or you biffed a catch or whatever, like they would mark you and that would happen. And so again, it's the winners get praised and anyone else who makes a mistake gets this humiliation, and it can easily backslide into this hazing, sexual assault, weird, fucking. Just this weird environment that festers with that kind of mentality. I don't think anyone personally, I don't care what level you're playing at. I don't think that's healthy. I just don't. I think there are ways of motivating people that don't rely on humiliation or putting someone under someone else, either physically or status wise.
I agree. I want to make a very big distinction here. Me playing Division III track versus Division I SEC football, very different levels of pressure.
No,
okay,
disagree.
Extreme.
I played neither, and I disagree.
Extreme differences in pressure there. It's the same thing I've seen in like when I've watched like training combines or tryouts for the NFL.
Yeah,
like receivers get like 3 chances.
Right.
To catch a ball.
Look, the pressure's high. I absolutely the pressure's high, and people need to stay motivated. But I don't see any world where that is acceptable to treat someone like. I mean, sure, like raise your voice, motivate them, yell at them if you need to. Like not in a belittling way, but like get that energy level up, and motivate them to do better. But you like. Anytime where you're putting someone over someone else, you are that's one foot on a very slippery slope. Yeah,
because I think there's like I think especially at like the elite level like the NFL where you're literally getting paid to do your job, which is play football. There's an expectation of like, hey, we're expecting you to catch these balls, to make these tackles, to block, and to do all these sorts of things. And so that is like professional, man to man. That is my expectation of you. And if you do not make that, there will be consequences for that. So like I understand, again, we're talking about the level that you're willing to go to be competitive and to be in the elite. But when I saw like one of the most stark things that happened, that stood out to me was when Florida won their second championship, immediately after they won, Urban Meyer was in the locker room texting recruits for the next season. Like he couldn't even enjoy his second championship because he was immediately looking to the next season. Wow. And he actually ended up having to quit for a hot second because like he couldn't handle it mentally because the stress and the pressure was absolutely killing him. Like he wasn't sleeping. It was eating him alive and he just couldn't handle it. And I look at that as like, what is the cost of success? Because if that's what you have to go through to be successful, I'm like, if you and again, I don't know, it's to each person their own. Like some person's like, man, my dream is to win a fucking national championship at Division I collegiate football school. Like, tell me what I need to do, coach, and I'm going to do it. I will work my balls off. I will do this. I will sacrifice whatever it takes. If that's truly someone's goal, far be it for me to get in someone's way or to judge them on that sort of stuff. But I feel like if you look at the repercussions of that, If you can look back on that and still be proud, congratulations. But if you look back on that and say, boy, we were willing to do this for a game.
For a game.
We were willing to do this for a game, for a sport. We were willing to do all this shit for a sport.
There's nothing sporting about that.
No, to humiliate people, to belittle people, to push people to the brink when they're between the ages of 18 and 22. You're willing to just leave this mark on them like that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of those guys went on to play in the NFL, so maybe this was preparing them for that. I don't know. But I felt like when I watched that show, and there's these moments of great celebration, you're like, great, but it's very much undercut by the aftermath of the pressure, of the weight of it, of what do you have to do, like, to keep this going. I don't know, man. I looked at that as just like, Jesus Christ. And it made me reflect on my experiences in sports and the good ones I had and the bad ones I had. A lot of the bad ones I had were football related because
it's a different culture, man. I really do. Like, it's a very different culture, that just football in general.
Yeah. I mean, I had a phenomenal wrestling coach. I had phenomenal wrestling coaches, and I feel like they were probably the most profound ones I had in high school. They helped me build my confidence, and they were supportive. And when tough love needed to be had, I received it. I got a little bit of public humiliation in wrestling, and I remember being really upset about it at the time. But essentially, my assistant coach, who was the bulldog, over a holiday practice in front of everyone, he's like, "You need to stop being a fucking pussy." And like, he said that in front of everyone, and I hurt my feelings so much. Like, I got really upset. I went home and I told my dad, I was like, Hooper said I need to stop being a pussy in front of everybody. But he was also doing it to everyone. He was like, you need to do this, you need to do that. He's like, you need to stop being a fucking pussy. But you know what I did? I sucked it up, and I was like, he's right. I am being a pussy. I'm overthinking stuff. I need to be more aggressive. And it turned me around. I needed to hear that at that time. Didn't want to hear it, but I needed to hear it. And I knew he did that out of love, too. I knew this is my senior year. This guy has been coaching me for over 3 years at that point in time. He was like, come on. Like, he's like, come on, get it together, I
know you're better than this. I know this. Yeah.
And he was right. And because I trusted him and I respected him, and I heard that, and it hurt, but I needed to hear it, and it made me better. And I knew he did that out of love. And so when I think back to like football, I think about the coaches and the dumbass shit that we were doing, and it was awful, absolutely awful, dumb. And by my senior year, I was just like, I'm here to have fun, man. What are we doing? What are we pretending? What do you think this is? This is Friday Night Lights. Come on. We haven't had a winning record in my entire tenure here. What do you think we're going to do? You think we're going to do it this year? Nah, that ain't going to happen. I know that. You know that. Let's have fun. We'll try our best, but like, let's not kid ourselves here. We're not great. Yeah. Every game we won by just this much. Every game we won was just like, why does it have to be a nail biter? Why can't we blow someone out? Never was. It was like double overtime or whatever, man. It was insane. It was just barely. It was just like, we're just not that good.
See, that sounds to me like a very practical approach to how, to understanding where you're at with your skill level, with your team, and where you think you're going to go. You've been very practical for a long time, Doug.
I have.
You got the questions, we got the answers. All you do is ask. Practical. Ask Practical Doug.
Feels good to be back. If you haven't been here for an Ask Practical Doug,
I'm going to come.
You heard it here first, folks. Former President Trump. Gonna come.
Yep.
There's a small Doug that lives inside large Doug. Small Doug's known as Practical Doug, and he guides large Doug in all of through all of life's quests, its quandaries, its questions, its quagmires. And if you want to ask Practical Doug a question, you can ask Practical Doug a question. You can go on any social media that we're on. You can @MindGap Podcast and hashtag Ask Practical Doug. You can even go to our Discord, where there's a specific channel set up for Ask Practical Doug questions. And if you ask a good enough question, it might get on the air. Unfortunately, no one asked a good question this week. I'm looking at you, Jared.
Yeah.
So we went back to our favorite subreddit, Am I the Asshole? And Doug, there's two that I have in here. Do you have a preference on which one? I'm gonna read the titles.
Let's do the aisle seat one. Let's do that.
So here we go. So this is Am I the Asshole? So this is throwaway 06121. Am I the asshole for not giving my boyfriend the aisle seat or best friend? I don't know. This says BF. Okay, this feels kind of dumb to even write, but here we go. My boyfriend answered 30 male and I 30 female will be on a 15-hour-long flight in 2 weeks. It's both of our first international flights and both seats are in economy. For a tiny bit of context, he and I have been together for 4 years, but we did split up for about 3 weeks around 6 months ago. Too much math. This is relevant because this is when I booked the flight for myself. I guess I was trying to do a whole eat, pray, love thing to cope. When we reconciled, I told him about the trip. He expressed interest in joining me. And I was even more than happy to have him along. When I booked the flight, I picked an aisle seat for myself. I'm small in stature at 5 feet tall, while he is a tall guy around 6'7". I didn't even think a seat on my flight would be available since I was booking his trip a few weeks after mine. So when I saw that one was, we decided to book it right away without really considering the seating arrangement. Fast forward to now, we're doing our trip prep things, and suddenly it hits him like a ton of bricks. Wait, what's my seat assignment again? When he sees that he's assigned a seat in the middle-ish, it's a 4-seat row, he immediately asks me to switch with him. I told him, no, I don't want to sit in the middle. Mainly, this is because of social anxiety and all the other general reasons that people hate the middle seat in a long plane ride. But now he's really guilt-tripping me, saying stuff like, well, I'm going to have to get up and stretch my legs 1,000 times during this. And if the roles were reversed, I'd do it for you. That statement genuinely makes zero sense to me considering the content of this discussion, but I digress. Am I the asshole for not wanting to switch with him for my own comfort? Should I let him have the aisle seat? Now there's an edit. For additional context, I paid for this flight. It is 100% free for him. And I did offer to give him the aisle seat on the return flight as a compromise. But he's kind of getting at wanting it for both legs of the flight. We're not fighting about this. We are not fighting about this. Him being mopey about it just makes me feel guilty. It's a lot to unpack there, Doug, but is throwaway 06121 the asshole here?
It's a great question. As someone who just recently flew on a 4.5-hour flight, and as someone that's 6'3", this is important. When I flew, I made sure to get either an aisle or a window because I was like, I'll scrunch in on the window because I ain't leaving. I ain't going anywhere.
We all know that Doug doesn't use the bathroom on the planes.
By the way, I was super paranoid I was going to have to take a shit on the plane after I talked all that stuff.
You're like,
beforehand.
karma? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like waiting to the last second to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I cannot use the bathroom. I won't do it. So on the way there, I was in the window and I just scrunched in there and I was like, I ain't going anywhere. And on the way back, I was able to get an aisle, which I don't particularly like. Some people like it because you can stretch your legs, but I always just get people fucking hit me. Like, let's say, walk by, the goddamn drink and snack carts come by, and I feel like even more constrained. Sure. And then if people need to get up, and they're like, I need to go to the bathroom, then you got to get up. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. And I don't, I prefer, I'm like, put me in I'll go in the goddamn, window seat. That's fine. I'll make that work. So I understand. I can empathize with this lady's boyfriend being 6'7". Anyone that's taller than me, I'm like, dear God, I feel bad for you. That's a big dude. So I'll say this much. I understand his concern. But I don't think throwaway is the asshole here. I think she is well within her rights to be like, no, I don't want to switch you. Because who wants to go, give me the middle seat.
Right.
It's like, when Jill and I have to do a chore that neither one of us wants to do, right? Like, I don't know, let's like go to one of Natalie's friends' birthday parties, you know? I'm like, I don't want to go. She's like, I don't want to go either. So how about we both go so we can help each other out? It's like, that's a fair point. Like, no one wants this. So he should, in my opinion, her boyfriend should look at this and be like, let's look at the circumstances. This was booked at a time where we weren't together. Mm-hmm. I've expressed interest in going and she's paying for it.
Bingo.
and I should be lucky to get to go on this. And while it sucks that you're in a middle seat for 15 hours, that sucks. I think you should just take it on the chin, be a trooper. And if she offered to compromise and say, I'll take the aisle one and the middle and the next, maybe you should take that instead of being fucking greedy and take it asking for both like a little bitch, you know? Because that's what bitches do. They fucking complain and they want more than what they're being offered. It's compromised, you know? They should do that. So I would say, no, I don't think this person is... because no one wants the goddamn middle seat. Right. No one does. So, yeah, fuck off. It is what it is.
I don't care if she's 5 foot. It doesn't make any difference. Middle seat still sucks.
Yeah. Guess what? Him in the aisle still sucks.
Right.
Because it's 15 hours.
He's not going to be comfortable no matter what.
No, you're in economy on a 15-hour international flight. You're going to be miserable wherever you are. You'll be slightly more comfortable in an aisle. Yeah. Maybe. Because I have to get up 1,000 times. You'll still have to get up 1,000 times even if you're in the goddamn aisle. So that's expected in an international flight. It's fine, right? So get over it. Yeah. So no. The poster here is not an asshole in my opinion. What do you think?
I have to agree. I think for all the reasons you stated, like it's she's paying for the flight. First and foremost, she's paying for the flight. If she's paying for it, that's to me that's open and shut. And it was booked when they were not together, and she's willing to compromise. I mean, everything from the way she's describing it. Now, if there's something that we don't know, that could change the way that this goes. But everything as it's being described right now, I would say throw away 06121, not the asshole.
Boom.
Decided.
It is decided. Good stuff as always. Justin, what do you have to recommend this week?
So Netflix purchased a series of short stories from Roald Dahl. And
from who?
Was it Roald Dahl? Roald Dahl?
What just happened?
James and the Giant Peach.
Oh, the British writer.
Roald, okay. Roald, Roald Dahl. Right?
Okay.
Is that how you would pronounce it? Great. So
sure.
he's an author. They brought a series of short stories, and they tapped Wes Anderson to create short films from them. And there's 4, I believe, that they've adapted on Netflix, and the best of which is called The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. Now, this stars, I'm going to forget all the people. This stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Dev Patel, Ben Kingsley, Ray Fiennes, Rupert Friend, Richard Ayoade, who you would know from the AITA crowd, and a couple other. So it's only like 6 people playing every character, and it's very interesting.
Wow.
Love how Wes Anderson shot it. It's very Wes Anderson, but just it is part film, part stage play, and part book reading, and it's the weirdest amalgamation of all 3. This one is the longest of the 3. I think this one is like 39 minutes or something. The other ones are like 17 minutes. But they're all just really fun adaptations of short stories. And then I went out. This prompted me to go out to our library, and I picked up the actual book of short stories that this is from, and I'm reading it now. And I just, I would say it's really, really, it's quick, it's refreshing, it's fun. So The Wonderful World of Henry Sugar on Netflix, and then if you just look up Wes Anderson, you can find the other 3 or 4 that are on there.
Cool.
Yeah. Doug, what do you got?
It takes a lot for me to watch a comedy movie these days. I haven't really watched them in many, many years, but I like Bert Kreischer, and I wanted to see what his movie The Machine was all about, and I threw it on with zero expectations. Really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a fun little romp. Bert does a surprisingly good job in the film. Has some really good comedic lines. Just like he's also extremely self-aware as he plays himself, and his tendencies and things like that. It's very enjoyable. Mark Hamill does a phenomenal job as his dad. And the whole time I'm just like, you got to work with Mark Hamill. That's pretty.
I love the fact that he pulled Mark Hamill for this. That's awesome.
unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable film. It's fun. Don't look for like a whole lot of depth, but it's enjoyable. It's really good. I was pleasantly surprised as I was listening to it, and I had a couple of really good laughs as I was watching it. I'm like, that's pretty good. That was fun. It made me feel pretty good to watch it. So it was really good. It was a nice, fun, self-aware. If you're a fan of Bert Kreischer or Two Bears, One Cave or any of that sort of stuff, there's some fun references and stuff like that in there. So it's definitely worth it. It's on Netflix and you can check it out. It's worth a watch. I recommend it.
Very good.
Very good. All right, gang. Well, thanks so much for hanging out this week. Please remember to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mindgappodcast. Be sure to check out our Discord. The link is in the description below, as well as links to our merch at Redbubble, as well as our Patreon. Patreon.com/mindgappodcast, all that good stuff. Hit us up. Check out on our social medias at Mind Gap Podcast. That's where we post our clips from the show, as well as some other fun stuff from our video game streams. I have a fun one out there about Donald Trump playing Among Us. You should check it out. It's pretty good.
I enjoy it.
That's very, very fun stuff. Very, very fun. I also host a video game stream it fluctuates between Fridays and Saturdays, so be sure to check us out for that as I play fun games in the universe, and Justin exists well online.
On Instagram at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. While you're in the online realm, check us out on any podcast platform that you consume podcasts. You can find us, consume us there. Like, subscribe, share, rate, review, all those things. The big one, of course, is sharing, because it is caring. 2east8th.com, 2east8th on all social media, loveandimprovfilm.com, loveandimprovfilm on Instagram, and we have some potential movement with Love and Improv. I can't reveal what it is, but we have some interest from some potential cameos. And that hopefully will lead to some people wanting to give us money to fund this film finally. So potentially good things coming. Keep an eye on the socials.
Well, that's fucking exciting. Glad to hear it, buddy. Keep it up. Well, with that being said, I want to say, Justin, thank you.
Doug, thank you as always.
To our listeners and our viewers, thank you. And you all have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.